I'm Janelle Slade. Well, as COVID-19 has swept across the nation, sporting events and seasons of all sorts have been postponed or canceled. Today, we add another Montana favorite to that list. This morning, Missoula Marathon race director announced the race has officially been called off. Over the past 14 years, the race has gained national popularity. In 2009, it was named the #1 marathon in the country by Runner's World magazine.
The community engagement's a very big part, a huge part of why we've gotten a lot of the awards and recognition that we've gotten over the last several years. The people of Missoula take great pride in being part of the race, in helping to support the race, in encouraging people to come to Missoula and show off our city. And it's a huge disappointment to us because we don't get to share that with everybody.
For currently registered participants, the race cancellation options and details can be found at www.missoulaMarathon.org. And beginning Monday, May 25th, organizers will accept new registrations from runners and walkers who want to take part in the virtual races. Well, if you like running in the rain, today is the day. Meteorologist Ed McIntosh standing by in the Weather Center with all of those details. We hope, right?
Well, we've got a lot to talk because we do. We're going to be talking about rain, snow, and how about wind? If you're going to be running, how about running with the wind at your back? Because we had a lot of strong wind gusts across the region through last night, up to 62 miles an hour recorded in the Billings area, 55 miles an hour at Sheridan, Wyoming. You see a lot of those gusts across the eastern plains. And then we started picking up on snow across the region. Wet conditions in Bozeman Pass. There's McDonald Pass, which was a problem since last night. You can see the travel trailer in there. Every time I take a picture from that area, I get a travel trailer. Monarch Canyon having some snow issues as well. And how about this from the Lewistown Divide? We still have some snow around Judith Gap as well. In fact, it doesn't look like they were enjoying their coffee out there first thing this morning. More on the forecast coming up in a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Ed. Well, almost 2 weeks after Governor Steve Bullock lifted the stay-at-home order, state health officials again report no new coronavirus cases across Montana. This is the third day in a row of 0 confirmed cases. Now, this news as the state now focuses on the active cases across Montana. That number reporting at 23 with 6 patients hospitalized. Those 23 active cases are spread between 10 different counties, 5 of them in Yellowstone County. The number of deaths stands at 16. Well, it's a different story in Wyoming where 27 people tested positive yesterday. It's the state's largest single day increase. 56 people currently have COVID-19 in the Cowboy State. Wyoming has now passed Montana in total number of cases since the beginning of the pandemic, but still has the least amount of deaths across the country. Well, as a few small schools across Montana open their doors today, other districts across the state struggle to decide the next step. Butte High, along with all 3 public high schools in Billings, will move forward with in-person graduations, while other large schools in Montana have not released graduation plans. Well, in Billings, the school district and local health experts came together to make it happen, but announced yesterday some strict guidelines, which include a much smaller audience. Each graduate will only be allowed to bring 2 guests. Temperatures will be checked and 6-foot distance must be kept at all times. Guests will be given tickets, and county health leaders have asked that those be saved after the ceremony as a way to ensure contact tracing. Now, everyone, including grads, will be required to wear a mask, but Billings clinic officials are ready to help with that. The hospital will have 3D printed masks for each graduate and their 2 guests in the specific school color. Well, School District 2 officials thank county health leaders for working with them to make sure the ceremonies could move forward. Well, as parents try to plan in the middle of this pandemic, in Great Falls, public schools opened kindergarten registration yesterday, and we hear there were no shortage of sign-ups. At Meadowlark Elementary, Principal Teresa Sprague says while the process was logistically different this year because of social distancing, overall numbers at her school were right on track for the first day. Since registration packets are available online, it was efficient for many parents to fill forms out at home and then drop them off. Sprague says although there is concern among parents about how school will look in the fall, the environment was energizing.
Parents have definitely mentioned that, and just kind of threw out their questions of wondering what it's going to look like in the fall, but mostly It was just enthusiasm and excitement, and still looking forward to everything being as normal as we can be, but knowing that they trust us in that if we need to put some things in place in the fall that will make things a little bit more safe for the kids and for the staff, that will definitely do that. So, but they were still excited.
And if you have a kiddo ready to head to kindergarten, reach out to your local school district to find out when you can get her or him registered. Well, Governor Steve Bullock says $10 million will be set aside to help daycare providers across Montana. This added to the list of those receiving federal aid during the coronavirus pandemic. Half of that money will go to child care center owners to pay staff. Another 30% will start a scholarship program for low-income children so struggling parents can continue to get them care as they return to work. And the remaining 20% will fund temporary child care for people who need it as schools remain closed. Well, in the extremely tight vote in the district's elementary bond proposal in Townsend, the chair of Townsend School Board says he expects there will be a recount. Earlier this week, the initial count showed 1,040 votes for the nearly $19 million bond issue and 1,038 votes against it. The two-vote margin is narrow enough to force a recount if 10 voters file a petition for it. If it passes, the $18.8 million bond would replace the existing elementary school. A petition for a recount must come within 5 days of the official canvass of votes. Well, the Montana Historical Society is working to make sure your stories are preserved during this pandemic. It has 2 surveys aimed at capturing what life was like for Montanans on its website. The Historical Society hopes people share both the positives and the frustrations of living during this pandemic. Officials believe the information collected will be a huge benefit to future historians and Montanans. Now, people are asked to fill out a survey now and then again in a few months to reflect on the changes. Ahead on your noon news today, the topic of Montana's wildfire season is at the forefront. However, up next, we'll look at how the process of fighting those wildfires will be much different. The time now is 12:07, but first, Edmund next with your statewide weather forecast.
Use your Storm Tracker weather forecast with meteorologist Ed McIntosh.
Welcome back to the noon news. Temperatures as warm as 60 at Havre already, but mainly we're in the 40s to 50s across Montana. It's been a little bit drier and a little bit warmer across the northern edge of the state. Showers have been more persistent here as we start looking into south central Montana, and a lot of wind to go with that as well. Now, some of the winds here this hour at Livingston gusting up to 29 miles an hour. Sheridan, Wyoming, gusts 45 to 50 miles an hour in the last 15 minutes. Billings over towards Miles City, all the way up towards Williston, North Dakota, seeing some of those stronger winds as this disturbance digs through. Now, meantime, the winds have started to really ease up in western and northern Montana, making for overall a fairly decent spring day. Still looking at some areas where we have winter weather advisories. This one just expired here in central Montana, but still looking into areas of the Pryors and the Bighorns in northern Wyoming. Strong winds still in those areas we mentioned around Sheridan, Wyoming. Some of the rain totals around Highwood, just outside of Great Falls, over 1.5 inches of precipitation. 12 inches of snow around Nyhard and 8 inches reported around the Lewistown area. I mean, we're feeling that the impacts with some travel in those areas. So here's how the system's setting up. The low spinning in here, upper level winds going around it. So this low pressure area is continuing to spin off into the central plains, and the rain showers, snow showers, and wind wrapping around with that low. Now that's going to continue to move off into the central plains through the afternoon. Lingering wind through northern Wyoming, but most of the region starts to see a little quieter weather picture. But right on its heels, here comes a series of disturbances. One here will start to affect central and western Montana tomorrow, bringing at least the chance of some showers in. Here we are first thing tomorrow morning, and that system drifts towards the south central portion of the state, taking some showers along with it. Another one right on its heels comes in behind. This one affects the eastern half of the state. So Friday it's to the west, Saturday it's to the east. Yeah, that's another one that's starting to come down as we get into the weekend as well. So under this northwesterly flow, this high pressure area just stays parked here into the Pacific Northwest. So the upper level winds just keep grabbing these disturbances and pushing them down across the region. Today, we're going to look at a lot of 50s to 60s for the afternoon highs, as we're already seeing some of those warmer readings across northern Montana where the system's already wound out of the area. But as we get into the afternoon, showers will diminish through southern Montana and northern Wyoming. A few showers remain over towards the west. Overnight temperatures are mainly into the 30s. We'll see some clearing overnight and a rather chilly start in a few places first thing tomorrow morning. The afternoon highs will be mainly into the 50s and 60s. Generally a little bit warmer tomorrow region-wide, but as that next disturbance comes down, we will see more wind for you here through areas up into the Rocky Mountain front around Great Falls, Cut Bank, Choteau, and also scattered showers that'll start to develop later on in the afternoon. Really not looking for any strong spring storms, but certainly could see some showers develop out of this with pockets of some heavier rain and some wind to go along with it. Temperatures will rebound a bit for you in the next several days west of the divide. You've got a much quieter weather picture once we get on the other side of the Rockies. Looking at temperatures 50s to low 60s from Great Falls towards Helena. A few hit and miss showers for you tomorrow. For the area in southwest Montana, looking at temperatures 50s to low 60s. A few stray showers, and then eastern Montana is going to be a little more active as far as that rain goes. There's a look at the weather. Back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, it's an inevitable part of Montana's summer, fire season. And this year, just like everything else in our lives, the process of fighting those wildfires will be much different due to the COVID-19 pandemic. MTN's Russ Thomas has more on these new strategies.
The U.S. Forest Service is making changes to the way it approaches and subsequently handles wildland forest fires in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. Those changes begin at the initial onset of a fire.
Normally we go out and take a look at it, see if it's in a resource area that we can allow it to do its work and play a natural part in the ecosystem. This year is going to be a little bit different. We may be looking at putting those fires out a little bit more.
USFS Northern Region Press Officer Dan Hoddle says this initial aggressive attack, along with immediate use of aviation assets, will take away the opportunity for regeneration that can often come with leaving smaller fires to burn. Fires that grow beyond the point of initial management will bring new decisions that differ from past years.
How many people we need to bring in? Do we need to bring them in from out of state? And if so, we have to keep them socially distanced and still be able to do their jobs without being in such close quarters.
Part of that process includes screening and testing for COVID-19 if testing is available. If the summer of 2020 plays out like the summer of 2017, where several large wildfires broke out in the region, the number of overall staffing may remain similar, but Hoddle says the strategy to maintain social distancing will be noticeable.
You're going to start to see probably smaller satellite camps. You're going to see more contracts being awarded to companies that can actually come in and help us support with vehicles and logistics and water and food and in smaller, more dispersed settings.
Hoddle says that even though the process may look vastly different, the overall goals haven't changed, and these goals won't be compromised.
That'll be our number one priority is protecting lives and property and the safety of our wildland firefighters.
In Missoula, Russ Thomas, MTN News.
Thanks, Russ. And Hoddle adds the most important thing we can do is make sure all camping and backyard fires are extinguished completely, as 70% of all wildland fires are human caused. Well, your latest ag news is next with Jason Laird. Stay with us.
Your Farm and Ranch Report from the Montana Ag Network.
Good Thursday afternoon, everybody. I'm Jason Laird. It's time now for your Farm and Ranch news. A retired farmer earned his bachelor degree almost 50 years after dropping out of college. Dennis Runke gained national attention last month when he donated a N95 mask to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, even though his wife only has one lung. He said that the mask should be used by a doctor or a nurse. Cuomo read the letter Runke wrote during a briefing as an example of generosity during the coronavirus pandemic. Now, Kansas State University President Richard Myers presented him with a degree in agriculture on Monday. He was only about 2 credits short of graduating when he left school in 1971 to care for his mother and family farm after his father died. Well, as national meat suppliers struggle with the demand, local producers across the country are stepping up. We head to Kansas, I should say, to see how local producers are picking up the slack.
At Good Foods Co-op, the meat aisle doesn't seem to be bare at all.
As soon as we saw some of our national suppliers having issues meeting demand, we just called our local producers, said, hey, we're going to need a little bit of a bigger order from you this week, and they stepped up.
Local producers like farmer Joe Weber in Mercer County. His operation is much smaller, so unlike Tyson Foods, for example, he's not having to halt or slow production due to the virus.
And I think us doing on a smaller level, we're having less point of contact with other people and can work it, just keeping all of our parts flowing.
And for the most part, a local cattle farmer might only deal with smaller businesses and fewer restaurants. Scott Gowers manages things at Rolling Fork Farm in Marion County.
Restaurants are operating at about a third of their normal capacity, and that would definitely affect farms and farmers and large processors.
And while Joe does supply for many restaurants, he's watched a new trend develop during this pandemic.
People actually started cooking at home more, so they ended up making up for that loss of demand by the restaurants.
And farmers like Joe and Scott are ready to make up for shortages that COVID-19 could create for the large processors.
We definitely have upped our production.
In Lexington, Michael Burke.
Well, we've got to take a short break, but we're going to be back in about 60 seconds with more news. And welcome back to your Farm and Ranch News. Well, Tyson Foods is looking ahead to the rest of 2020, and the company says that the challenges it's been dealing with because of the coronavirus aren't going away anytime soon. Tyson closed down its largest plant in Waterloo, Iowa, because of so many workers testing positive for coronavirus. In a new report just released on Monday, Tyson says that it is expecting even more closures to come. It's also expecting slowdowns due to not having enough employees and having to make changes to the workflow to keep people safe. With lower levels of productivity and higher costs of production, Tyson says there will be a shortage of protein in their supply chain. Well, Montana State University Extension Office will be offering free webinars throughout the month of May as a way of fostering social connection and learning. The webinars are planned for noon on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays in the month of May. Now, topics will focus on food supply, home maintenance, nutrition, financial health, and much more. The webinars will include time for questions and answers at the end of the presentations. For more information about upcoming topics, you can visit the MSU Extension Office's Facebook page, and programs will be recorded for future viewing or if you miss out. And to view past recordings, all you have to do is check out the Ravalli County YouTube page. That's their Extension Office. That's all the time we have for today. For the latest in ag news, make sure you check us out on Facebook. Just type in Montana Ag Network. I'm Jason Laird. Have a great Thursday, everybody.
All right. Thanks so much, Jason. Well, here's a nice story. Donuts sweetened things up for the Corvallis school staff yesterday. Donuts are always a treat, but especially when they're made up in Corvallis Blue Devil white and blue and delivered right to your door. Superintendent Tim Johnson and volunteers drove all over the valley, delivering donuts to more than 190 staff members from Darby north to Missoula. Operation Donut Drop was organized to mark Teacher Appreciation Week. Now, the district always does something for the staff, but with all the COVID-19, an extra special effort was made. The district made sure to honor all social distancing and other precautions while spreading this gooey goodwill. And with that, I could handle a donut right now.
I heard donuts and I came running back.
And also to check on our weather.
Oh, there's that too.
Okay,
yeah, let's go ahead and take a look. Temperatures in the 50s and 60s today. Those showers winding out of southern Montana, where we still have some periods of wind through the afternoon. Region-wide, we'll be looking at a series of disturbances moving through, although western Montana, you remain somewhat quieter over the next several days. Great Falls, Helena, you're looking at another chance of showers tomorrow. It's a fairly fast-moving system. It'll be mainly about temperatures in the 50s to low 60s. Most of the region is going to be running just a little bit cooler than average over the course of the next few days, but these disturbances come rippling through, causing areas of showers off and on through the weekend and the first part of next week. So it'll be spring-like weather, just a little bit cooler than we would typically see for this time in the season.
All right, thanks, Ed. Have a great day, everyone. We will see you tomorrow at noon.